Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen, and I am the product manager and sales manager here at Zyxel North America. Good to have you here this afternoon or this morning. We'd love to hear from you and have some feedback as I go through the discussion as well. I know this topic is kind of interesting. What's the similarities, or what does Swiss cheese and security and network security have in common? And so we're going to talk about that and talk about, security overall and some of the products and solutions that we have in order to facilitate this issue that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. How many of you, just maybe by a show of hands, are already doing network security today, either with the Zyxel or with somebody else? Just a raise of hands, just to kind of see who is all here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you there. Awesome. So really we'll have some, discussion. So if you want to if you want to make any comments or have any questions throughout the introduction here or throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A section, and that way I'll try to get to them as in line, as answer them as best as I can. If not, we'll have a Q&A section at the end if we have some extra time there. We do have a lot to cover. Security is a big topic, obviously, in this world, dealing with cybersecurity, all these as MSPs and as VARs, and even as your end users are now becoming more and more concerned about these types of applications and solutions to help protect them. They hear on the news all the time about security breaches and a lot of enterprises getting hacked, or even government entities. Ransomware is a big topic, but then now coming up is cybersecurity insurance and getting yourself covered from a insurance level to protect you from damages that may be caused, or your business either suffering, or productivity, or having to close your doors, like in the worst case scenario. So we want to talk about that and how Swiss cheese really is like network security in some sense. But a little bit of housekeeping here. We are Zyxel Networks. We've been now in business for 35 years, since 1989. 100 million devices making connections worldwide. Over 700 employees at Zyxel Networks, with 1 million businesses using Zyxel solutions today in 150 different markets globally. We are a solutions driven company, trusted to deliver connectivity solutions to millions of people around the world, using some of these brands that use our products today. And we partner up with industry leaders, companies like McAfee, Norton, Webroot, Bitdefender, Amazon, in order to provide these solutions within our products and deliver them to your customers and to the end users there. We serve you as a channel network. We are channel focused, with working with our distribution partners and sales reps who manage accounts within the North American space, both in Canada and the continental United States, and Hawaii and Alaska, of course, as well as Puerto Rico. So these are your account managers. If you have not yet dealt with them, please reach out to them, or you can reach out to me and get introduced to them as well. But they should already be, if you are a partner of Zyxel, you've already interacted with David, Andy, and Jacob in the process of getting on board. And we're here to help you with any of your needs: pre-sales, post-sales, stocking, pricing, deal registration. Please bring that to us. Even if you're working with your distributor, bring us in with that, so that we can help facilitate anything, from a stocking or a pricing scenario. We're here to assist you on that. We are solutions driven, like I mentioned. We develop our products and solutions and software, so we understand what you as partners need and what your end customers need, and how to facilitate that, and using our R&D resources to be able to provide those kinds of solutions to deliver that. So pretty much anything that connects to a network, we have some sort of solution that can work end to end in most cases. But if not, even on the small business space, we'll have the entire ecosystem of products to provide. So a very comprehensive portfolio in our network delivery of solutions: security appliances, wireless solutions, Ethernet switching with PoE, ultra PoE, 10 gig, multi-gig, fiber connectivity, gateway access for hotspot or for LTE applications and routers and small business routers, and then being able to manage it both through like a CLI, SNMP, through our Nebula Cloud platform, which is the number one way to manage our products today. So going into the topic at hand, network security, I think it's pretty much a rat race. Today, networks have become really sophisticated and targeted to attack or find ways to attack a network, both on a maybe direct, you know, I think we publicize or we look or mentally think about a hacker just sitting in the basement, like typing away and executing code, like some sort of matrix, application. But it's really not that a lot of the times. It's more of either a piece of software or a virus that gets infected and it just utilizes a host to doing the work for them, right? So there's a lot of ways that software or that malicious piece of a code gets integrated through the system, either through vulnerabilities, through holes in the network. So different types of social applications have also opened up those channels. So people using their phones, their devices, that BYOD, bringing those bringing those devices into the networks, people wanting to connect their phones to the business network while they're on the Wi-Fi at work. So how do you facilitate that application still for usability, but protect the business, protect the company from these potential avenues of threats and things like that? People who are also mobile today, they're working from home, they're working remote, or they're traveling a lot with their laptops, connecting to all sorts of networks, both public, and since you have no control over that network, you have kind of little knowledge on whether or not that network is locked down. Is it actually a real network, or is it somebody setting up a kind of a dummy host or a dummy guest network to just facilitate the sniffing of packets or watching what traffic is passing through it? It's hard to decipher, especially for just the users who are using it on a day-to-day basis, especially if they're not like IT professionals or IT people who they may be aware of the situation, but they wouldn't even know that they are being maliciously attacked in that regard. So small businesses need some sort of solution that's really efficient and inexpensive and provide kind of a full, complete network solution and protection against those kinds of attacks. So they're always looking for a way in. Hackers are looking to exploit security holes to get through networks, all sorts of vectors that are out there. So I kind of think about it again, it's like Swiss cheese, right? There's a lot of holes in that cheese, and those holes are a way to get in and pass through that network. And security, not only are you looking for ways of getting in through different applications, like I said, use cases, but those open up more opportunities to find ways into that network. They could be using a host, they can be using an iPad, an iOS, or whatever it may be to get to the network. And a lot of smart devices are in the home today that are very insecure. They're just made for ease of use, ease of connectivity, but then they're sacrificing security. There's no extra two-factor authentication because it just adds layers of difficulty to bringing those types of devices onto the network. So a lot of people have installed things with very just default passwords and default information that makes it easy for these these threat hackers and such to be able to know and try to facilitate their attacks focused on those. Once they gain control of some of those devices, then they can use that to piggyback across to other things. So how do we fill in those holes, and how do we minimize that kind of exposure and those threats? And there's a lot of ways to do that, especially on the network side. Not only do you need hardware, you need a security policy, you need to educate your end users and those people who are using those networks on top of that as well. And you have to be able to identify and be able to see what's happening on that network. You can't just let it, be a blind thing, because there's a lot of network. If you're, really a smart hacker is one who stays pretty hidden and stealth mode, in a sense that they want the host to not even know that they are even there, right? That's the best way of doing it. There are some hackers who are they just want to destroy or be destructive in that regard. And so taking down a network, it's like a virus that just, if it destroys the host, then there's no more control, or there's no more ways to replicate itself, right? So that we want to as a hacker, they would want to just make sure that they're there so they could just monitor, watch, and then when the time is right, and in their regards, they can utilize that for their control. And a lot of times people don't realize that people are even in their network or they've been compromised in that regard. So how do we find that? How do we deal with it? And especially today with increasing speeds in the WAN and applications that people are using in the cloud, they want to be able to do all of those applications. It's very convenient to use everything in the cloud. So you have to increase your internet connectivity. On top of that, people are working remote. So you need to increase the capacity or increase the speeds and upload speeds of your business networks. So there's a lot of demand for that increase. But the hardware or the firewall or the security portion, in order to facilitate those kinds of speeds, are sometimes being compromised in order to facilitate those speeds. So how do you deal with that balance of both maintaining a very high level of security, but and still maintaining those kinds of speeds that you need or what you're paying for? I think all of us, pretty much will, as network people, will go into a network and do a speed test to see what kind of speeds we're getting. And if we purchased for our home and our business a certain level of service, our expectation when we do that kind of test is that it will be what we paid for, right? And if it's not, then obviously we're going to try to find ways to negotiate that or to figure out why that's the case. And a lot of times it's because of the hardware that might be in place that can't maintain that security. So some of the solutions, and I wouldn't call it a solution, but some people would say, well, we'll just turn off some of the security features in order to make it go faster. But then that defeats the purpose of what we're talking about today. You've opened up another hole potentially when you turned off those kinds of security applications, and now you're no longer monitoring it. And so the hacker can utilize that avenue and that vector to come in. As of 2023, the global average of the WAN connectivity is about 100 megabits per second, and it's growing at a clip of about 20% each year. And internet ISPs today in more than 50 countries already offer a gigabit or faster type of internet. Now, if you live in certain areas where it's more rural, those speeds are not as available, though it's kind of interesting that there are some rural areas who actually have faster speeds than some of the downtown areas because they had the funding to build out those networks and to kind of take that next iteration, next step there. So overall, we think that there's going to be around 2030, so in about 6 years or so, that most countries are going to have gigabit or faster type connectivity. And so maintaining that high security is a concern of mine, because I am a security product manager for these kinds of products as well. But we also want to be able to maintain those speeds. So again, that kind of duality and just to be the challenges of both sides there. Cybersecurity threats will continue from Bitdefender to be a challenge, and will continue to evolve, and companies will become victims. How many of you have already dealt with partners or your customers who've dealt with either some sort of data breach or ransomware, maybe some sort of threat that people are downloading something or they've gotten cease and desist notices, etc. A lot. Thank you for your hands there. Organizations will embrace cybersecurity, obviously, because again, they're going to be inundated with not only information from partners like yourself to educate them, and then be able, but in some cases, there's going to be regulations and such that will force them to be able to have some sort of insurance or have some sort of cyber security stance. And to focus on, how do you mitigate it and how do you resolve it and how do you remediate all of those kinds of things and action plans in place. Because we know that when a network gets hit, a company goes down, a server goes down, internet access is lost, or a computer that is, someone's computer goes down, productivity goes to, nothing. And so it's very difficult if your main server or even access to the cloud is severed because of a network threat that has happened within the network. Business totally stops, and people can move to their cell phones, but again, it's just a temporary thing. So how quickly can you get yourself back online? Those IoT security challenges, like I mentioned, a lot of smart devices and IoT devices that may not have that kind of level of security. How do you protect those as well within your network? And of course, ransomware as a service is a big thing. You can go to a cloud and buy and create a ransomware type attack and be able to use that. So constant threats are being made for all sorts of malicious reasons. And there are a lot of different challenges that businesses, and kind of why security is almost like the insurance talk, right? Unless you say it is absolutely required for me to have this because that's the rules, I kind of never put aside money until I am attacked, right? A lot of businesses will not do preemptive, preventative measures here, but they will more likely be open if they are attacked, right? And so they kind of deal with the after effects, and sometimes it could be even more costly. It could even cost the business be able to open up again, especially during harder times. The business is already struggling, and then these kinds of things can really bring it down. So limited budgets, legacy infrastructure that can't handle some of maybe the scanning, or it leaves those areas and those devices vulnerable for attacks and be able to utilize that. There's a lack of security or cybersecurity tools available for the general public, and so partners like yourself are really the ones who need to have all these tools available to yourself, so that you can offer it to those customers. Different compliances and regulations, compliances like PCI, and HIPAA, et cetera. Those types of application structures will define what you need to have secured within that network. And then even when you do have these cybersecurity tools, they tend to be very complex. It's hard to dig through the information that's there and make sense of, well, what is happening on my network? Is it happening over time? Is it just a one-time attack or one-time thing that you're dealing with? Or is it something that is a bigger issue that you have to really confront and be able to mitigate and remediate right away? There's also human factors in these challenges for security as well. Unsafe employee behavior. You can only train an employee so much, and just hope that they don't click on that phishing email that says, "Hey, this is the invoice that you've been waiting for." We see a lot of those pass through even in our business, in our in our offices, and so we are keen to make sure that these are not possible ways. Obviously there's scanning tools that are there, but still there are some that still can get through. But we want to be able to educate that you don't click on that link. You do know how to recognize some of these security threats that are out there, so that you don't put your company or put the customer's company in jeopardy. There's human error in that regard as well. You accidentally clicked on that link because you just kind of weren't paying attention per se, or you weren't expecting it. Whenever there is a file to open, an executable to open, an Excel file, I am always kind of, I always have that the security first mentality, like, who's this coming from? Is it legit? Am I expecting it? But even in that case, I'm also kind of scrutinizing it as well. And the best way for that kind of phishing email is, have you called the person who sent you that email? Did you send me that file? And if they say yes, then obviously then there's a higher level of security there, or at least trust there that's involved. The shortage of cybersecurity staff and skills. It's kind of with the tools. So you may have the tools, but you don't know how to use it. Small businesses themselves typically don't have like their own IT, so they depend on MSPs and installers like yourself to provide them with the solution and provide them with the education as well. I know it's kind of a two swords there, two sides of the coin, where you almost want them to have issues so that you can go out there to help them with it, but if it's part of your plan, it's part of your MSP monthly plan that you're supporting, you don't want to end up over supporting, right? Because then you're spending all this extra time and you're not really billing them for it. If you had a break fix model, then obviously you're billing them for the time, but even in those cases, it's kind of questionable. Well, the customer can say, well, I'm down because my business got breached, and you're the one managing my business. So why did you let my business get breached? Right. So you're not doing your job. You're not doing your due diligence and all that as well. So it's obviously something that's constantly ongoing, and but it really revolves around having an expert person or a company or a VAR or system integrator to be able to manage that and be able to do their best and be armed with the tools necessary to help to remediate these. And then I mentioned earlier with the remote workforce, you have less control over what they're doing. They're taking their laptops into networks that you don't know, and that could be compromised network. They can end up being redirected or DNS, it's a malicious DNS server that they're actually using on that hotspot that they're connected to. So they get rerouted to all sorts of things for updates of the wrong files or updating of, you think it's a Windows update, but it's not, those kinds of things could potentially cause harm to the network when they get compromised, and the computer may not exhibit any kind of symptoms that they've been compromised, but they end up taking it back to their existing network or their main office network, and now it's checking to see if there are any other hosts that they can infect. So again, more holes there, more potentials for those areas. We will see definitely increased spend in those areas too, because of data loss prevention. People are backing up, they are insuring themselves. There's going to be more cybersecurity training for the employees, for the IT managers, for the personnel that manages those networks, both on the end user side and on the VAR MSP side. There's going to be more cloud-based security solutions as well. But even in a cloud-based security system, it's great. It's going to protect you if traffic is going into that cloud and being able to block and control. But then what still happens within the local network? You still have to have some visibility within that local space and be able to mitigate and protect that still. Because if you get attacked and compromised within the local network, then it's really nothing can be done, from a remote standpoint in the cloud. So cybersecurity for remote working, so dealing with VPNs and dealing with cybersecurity policies when using those VPNs to again help to protect the internal network as well as the end user, and be able to isolate them as needed. Mobile security, we'll see that more in the devices themselves. Most mobile devices don't have any kind of like antivirus or malware, but those are becoming more and more popular as an attack point, because that's what people are using. So downloading any kind of potentially malicious apps, if you didn't realize that was so and installed it, then it may cause some problems there. Identify access management, and so using identifications and multi-factor authentication to identify who is actually going in the network helps you to mitigate like unknown threats or somebody, you don't know who this person is or this device is, and be able to control what kind of network access it has into the network. And then using cybersecurity automation with AI. That's going to be an obvious, using AI to digest all of this information, all of the security logs and potential threats over time, and be able to make some sense of it, or at least be able to propose through that algorithm of maybe this may be a potential threat, this may be cause, and maybe even take action within these devices as well. So there's a lot of different solutions that are out there to help with that. And so with traditional threats, what we call kind of UTM threats, you have to define them. They're pretty much like a barrier. There's a signature that is there for known threats. And so as traffic is passing through a device like a firewall, we're able to scan that and be able to make identifications. Is this a known threat? And be able to look at this, the signatures, the heuristics, the behavior, and different ways that it's kind of connecting through. And we know how it's defined as potentially a threat. So we can use that information to block that. But Zyxel goes beyond that of just knowing, blocking known threats that these traditional techniques use today. So we still use these traditional techniques, but we're able to now block and discover new threats that are out there. So conventional UTM, again, you have to have known signatures. So anything that's known, antivirus, anti-spam, applications, content, websites, etc. And you put them into two buckets, right? They're good or they're bad. And then there's things that are kind of in between where they could be good, they could be bad. So Zyxel actually uses the technology of sandboxing and AI in the cloud to manage those potentially unknown devices or unknown threats. So those zero-day threats are used. We're able to conquer those and be able to find out those kinds of sophisticated threats, hidden and undetected ones. Maybe they're exploiting a security vulnerability in a protocol, and we can actually utilize the sandboxing functionality. And so we can make something that is unknown known, so that then it can be protected on kind of the known basis across the entire network. So Zyxel sandboxes any kind of suspicious traffic or files at a very high throughput, and be able to isolate those, based on your settings and configurations. But of course, there's a balance involved in that. You don't want to, let's say, overblock in a sense, or be hypersensitive to it, because then everything is going to get blocked. So your normal traffic or your normal kind of activity is going to be, blocked. So usability is going to be very difficult in that kind of security environment. So you have to find the balances of what is, and but again, it's to mitigate, you're not leaving yourself overexposed on all the threats, but you can minimize that down to the things that you absolutely have to use, et cetera, and be able to fine tune that based onto the business side. But we can use this information in our smart cloud. It involves a machine learning AI, and so every time there's an attack, that database is growing, and it's learning for future identification of additional potential threats. So kind of just the kind of a visual what happens. Let's say a zip file or something like that is sent through the network. It's an unknown threat. We actually will send that to the cloud. It gets emulated. It's going to be in the sandbox, going to look at some patterns. Is it trying to connect to different types of servers, outside? Is it having abnormal behavior? Things like that. And based on that, the AI will then decide, well, it's a malicious type of attack, and identifies that, throws it into the defense intelligence information within the cloud, and then creates update signatures to the database as a known, a known threat now. So that's really one way that these kinds of malicious software potentially could be identified. You can again define how strict you want it. When a file is unknown, you can choose to block it to be most secure, but then you may have to resend that file. Let's say it is deemed as a non-threat, so it's an okay file to be sent through. You may have to resend the file maybe a few minutes later because it had been blocked originally because it was unknown, but now that it's emulated and it's now deemed as a non-threat, then you can send it again, and it will go through to wherever you need to send it. So again, that's also still part of the usability and the education to your end customers on the process if they wanted that level of security. Or you can make exceptions. So there's, you can say, well, Excel files that are passed through, we won't run it through the sandboxing scans, et cetera. So again, to mitigate the day-to-day use applications, or maybe you can lock it down even further, that if it comes from this specific person who is, a known, has been educated in the ways of, security, et cetera, then they are more of a trusted entity, or a source entity, then you can allow for it to go through, right? So there's things, again, that you can help to ease the use and still maintain a high level of security. And so that global security ecosystem is shared across all of our UTM and sandboxing firewalls globally. So one threat found here will be beneficial to the entire whole, and vice versa. So there's going to be a great kind of almost like a community of threats, people who are attacked by threats, but it's going to protect the community as a whole. And on top of that, visibility is important, and that's what Secure Reporter does. And that comes with our bundles of our products with security UTM and scanning, because it can centralize your reporting for all of the different security applications and appliances that you're managing, and give you a clear picture of what's happening, not only in the device, but maybe on the individual devices that maybe are being threatened there. It gives you alerts, visualization tools, and it leverages everything within the cloud. So you can manage all of that within our Nebula cloud platform, kind of as a side, like a side portal to that Nebula while you're in the security appliance. So we're very passionate about having secure protection, and not only secure protection, but fast protection. And that's where our USG Flex H series provides. So I want to introduce our hardware, our multi-core hardware with fast path technology. It boosts and optimizes, protects your network while maintaining those high speeds, and it delivers the very best performance, especially in the small business. I would say best in class in its current speeds available and throughput for the price point that we're delivering to the market today. So it really makes sense for small businesses who in the past have been challenged in order to get gigabit or multi-gigabit firewall and UTM full security throughput. They would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to get that maintenance. And if you're just a small business, but you have a very fast internet connection, you don't want to have to pay for something, an exorbitant amount for a piece of hardware just to facilitate that and maintain security. So this is what will provide for a lot of MSPs and partners to get to that multi-gig, over a gig type security throughput. So, and some of our models will offer 2.5 and 10 gig uplink ports on the higher end models, but 2.5 and 10, some of them will have PoE plus ports as well. So you can attach one or two access points to it, or maybe a voice over IP or a camera that needs PoE injection. So it's a 30-watt power. So however you want to use the 30 watts across the two ports, if it has two ports, it's up to you. And that should be able to power at least, a couple APs if you needed to extend that network or provide Wi-Fi within that space. Of course, you can expand it to a switch, a PoE switch, and then expand it as much or as big as you want. It provides leading edge technology, encryption technology, and our SecQ extender. It ties in with basically a new version of our SecQ extender client. It's a universal client now. Before, if you've used Zyxel, we've had our kind of a Mac OS version, and then you had a Windows version of the client, and you kind of had to deal with that. But here, it's going to be all integrated into a single VPN license. You may still download the different clients for the different OSs, but it's going to be a single license for multiple platforms. So if you're getting a license and you're currently using a Windows system today, but then you get a Mac OS system tomorrow, you can basically use that same license on the other device. But you can only have, obviously, if you have a license for just one, then only one of those will be, active at a time. But of course, you could buy multiple licenses for offices, multiple seats that are available that you can utilize there as well. But it will provide you with IPsec and SSL VPN. The SSL VPN client that's built into this SecQ extender license it will only connect right now to the H series, and that's going to be the plan even moving forward. So if you still need SSL VPN for the legacy like USGs or even the current regular USG Flexes, then we have like a separate SSL VPN client that you could still use today. But our suggestion is to move to IPsec VPN because it is going to be more efficient. It's going to be from a throughput standpoint and from a security standpoint, it's a lot more efficient in doing VPN tunneling. So that also gives you two-factor authentication, centralized provisioning within this as well. So making sure that the end users themselves are not a potential security hole for your office, especially when they're working remotely. And we utilize IKE v2 in that protocol for VPN to provide security, reliability, and make it safer for those users that are out there. And you can still use L2TP, but we're really pushing for people to use, the IPsec VPN when you can. But there are some built-in L2TP that's part of Windows or iOS or Mac OS. But on the Android side, they've taken the L2TP out of Android. So you have to use some sort of third party like Strong Swan in order to implement L2TP there. So at that point, you might as well just look at using straight up VPN, IPsec VPN, in order to do that remote connectivity if you need to for encryption. And so our security is constantly evolving as well. Like I mentioned, security threats are are always out there. It's always changing. People are making new ones all the time. And so the threats are continually to grow. So how do you constantly deal with that? And how do you constantly, update your signatures? And that's what we do is we work with those security partners to make sure that their signatures and their product and their solutions are as secure as possible. And that is passed through to Zyxel devices. And so those go into the end users. So our security vendors are constantly working to protect against those threats. And so in a lot of cases, within minutes of an outbreak, they're able to facilitate that. Especially now, it's a battle between AI. There's the AI for the dark web. There's the AI for, these security vendors. And so who can detect something faster to make a fix for it, right? It's going to be a constant battle, and it's going to be a constant, update and trying to back and forth on the kind of this war of network security and who can facilitate their systems, better in that. So multiple threats require multiple layers of protection, and so our products provide that multi-layer of its protection. We're powered by some of the best in class security experts out there. Norton for sandboxing, Trellix for both web filtering and malware antivirus. We have IDP services. Siren provides us with the security of email, WebRoot for IP reputation, and QSMOS for App Patrol. So a lot of these vendors provide those types of solutions in that. So again, we're not doing it ourselves. We're relying on these partners who do what they do best, and utilizing their systems, utilizing their signatures, kind of their databases, and et cetera, and their expertise on how to protect networks from these different layers of threats. So it takes a whole team to do it. And a lot of the services and licenses, I mentioned earlier, antivirus that protects the malware, for Trojans, worms, malware, anything like that. And it's a string-based scan, and it can also look at daily threats, anti-spam, email security. You can do IP reputation blocking with that, black and white listing for custom policies. It uses a cloud database to protect in real time. Web filtering is very popular because it allows for you to control maybe inappropriate, unproductive, illegal, or malicious websites categorized together in a simple checkbox scenario where you can choose what to block, what to allow. You can do granular policies by IP address, by user, by group, or by schedule within that web filtering functionality. IPS for intrusion detection, deep packet inspection, for against vulnerabilities, signatures that you can even create your own rules, signatures that are auto updated as well. So it's constant, information on these kinds of threats. Application patrol is very popular and very important as well, because it allows for you to do granular policies by IP address, by user, by group again, by specific applications. So if you want to block, a Skype application, it can do it at the packet level and allow for maybe Skype chat portion to go through. But if you try to send a file through Skype, or like you're trying to do a file share through Skype, you can actually choose to block it. So a lot of those kinds of things can come into play. And then geo IP enforcement, being able to block users or traffic that comes from different countries that maybe you don't want or don't need or don't care to have, which a lot of the threats may end up being coming from those. There's a lot of host devices. If any of you have connected to the WAN connection with a firewall, and you just kind of let it go and log everything, you'll notice that your IP address will get hit within like 4 seconds. Just a few seconds, it's going to start getting all sorts of blocks and drop packets because it's getting all sorts of people trying to look for who you might be. Like, so they're just scanning the entire network of the IPs, looking for a potential host. So you don't want to be sitting out there with any kind of, without a firewall type protection. The sandboxing is what I had I talked a little bit more about already, about our comprehensive inspection to be able to block unknown files. We also have a reputation filter function within our products. So using IP-based reputations that are out there on the web there with these services, and then be able to offer blocklist, whitelist support on that as well. So you basically can choose, hey, this is a known malicious IP or DNS or things like that. it can help to protect you against that and be able to block users from going or using those. Secure Wi-Fi is an application for, again, to make it ease of use, to build a VPN tunnel between a remote office or a home office using just an access point, building a layer 2 tunnel through the internet back to the firewall and be basically an extension of an existing network. So being able to drop in this device into the home without having to add additional or be able to, unlock or bridge the existing home router. You can create an entire business private network or private business network just for your remote office workers there, and it won't, mix into their consumer products. So it helps to isolate them. So even if they did have a smart device that was compromised, it wouldn't affect this device that's on, that's connected to this method. So it can be segregated from that. We've also launched Astra as a cloud security service for mobile devices and for endpoint security. Right now it's for mobile, but it's going to be moving also into the laptop space. So you'll be able to download clients, and that information can be passed on to the firewall. And again, to manage kind of the threat management of the different devices that are on that specific network. Cloud email security, and hotspot management if you're doing guest network access to isolate users from the network, and be able to manage all of these solutions and all these layers of protection in a central management option. So one thing I want to make sure you're clear on is the H series right now is a standalone first device, and it has centralized management mode via Nebula. So don't confuse it right now. It will have full Nebula, I would say full Nebula support, as maybe as what you would know it as a GUI interface, but that's not happening until about October timeframe of this year. But what this does allow for you to is with Nebula, you can put it into a drill-in mode, and so while you're monitoring the device, the on-off status, be able to manage the firmware operations, manage the licenses with Nebula, you can access the GUI interface of that device through a secure SSH tunnel mode. So our USG Flexes do that today as an option as well. So you can deploy it as a standalone type model and hook it into Nebula. And while you're in the Nebula interface, and if you want to manage a device, you click on the link to get to the device. And now you have the full access of the interface as if you were sitting in that. And so all we're doing really once in the October timeframe is that's just going to mirror the interface per se to the cloud so that you can just do it within the cloud, but you're still going to be managing the devices as if it was standalone in that regard. So it's going to be more of that visibility, and the benefit of that will be that we'll have a universal configuration. So whether you're using it in the cloud, managing in the cloud, or managing it through the GUI, it's the same configuration. It's the same exact, you're managing the device. So it can still be backed up in the cloud. You can restore from the cloud configuration, et cetera, as you're used to. But this is what's going to allow for us to have a more universal configuration, more universal plan from moving from models to models. So even if you had maybe a USG Flex 200H today and they needed to upgrade to a 700H because they needed more capacity, you're going to be able to migrate that configuration to the newer hardware without having to reinstall or reconfigure everything from scratch or doing any kind of conversion type option. So that's going to be the benefit long term there with that the central management. But just think of it as you're going to be able to manage the device no matter what. But through Nebula, you can click through it and manage it in a Nebula window. So your experience will be no different than if you clicked on a Nebula link and went to a Nebula page, right? There's still going to be this interface GUI that you're going to be configuring. So from a user standpoint, it's going to get to a point where no one will even realize or notice, am I managing the device itself or am I managing it in the cloud? It won't matter. So that's going to be the beauty of that. And it's AI powered cybersecurity enhancements as well. So the cloud intelligence with that sandboxing, the IP reputation filtering, sandboxing, anti-malware, application patrol, that's all available within the H series today. We are also been named We're one of the first in the SMB market to receive this authorization from the CVE. CVE is the entity, the Common Vulnerability and Exposure entity, where you always see all these, CVE announcements and these numbers when there are some sort of vulnerabilities and such. So we are an authority to add those numbers, but then also be a provider acceptance level for like NIST. In their national vulnerability database. So we're the only networking company in the world right now with that provider acceptance level for both CVSS version 3.1 and CWE there. So it's really a great recognition on not only are we very serious about security of our products, but that we want to be able to notify and to do it the right way in order to find the fixes and be able to announce that to the public as an authority, rather than, it's not a hush hush thing on our side, right? We want to make sure that we deal with those vulnerabilities when it's either found by ourselves or found by other people. We do have programs out there that third parties will utilize, almost like a headhunting, not a headhunting, but a kind of a finder's fee type thing, or incentives for them to find vulnerabilities for us so that we can help to make the product better. And so don't be alarmed, because every vendor has a level of having to and have a kind of their it's their I can't think of the word. It's really their job to go and make sure that these vulnerabilities are provided to the public, and especially in a security standpoint, how to fix it, how to remediate, what products are affected, et cetera. And that's what we do. And so we can do that with our products today. So that really, again, it's just a stance of we're very serious about security and be able to find these vulnerabilities and fixing them to provide them to the public. Our new OS within the H series is a powerful new UOS that's been built from this new kind of platform there. So it allows for us to apply configuration changes instantly, optimizes configuration security policy management very easily as well. So this is kind of a preview of what it looks like within the interface. It's going to look very similar to Nebula. So if you used Nebula before, it's going to look similar to that, and that's going to be the way of moving forward. Is so that way, again, like I mentioned, you won't know or really realize, are you actually in the device or are you actually in the cloud? And that should be the space. You should just be able to manage the device however you want to manage it, through a web interface or logging directly into the device. You should be able to see the same kind of interface. And that's what's going to be done there. So it's done in a way that's not only a better, quicker, but more secure. It's more optimized. It allows for you to, edit and customize some of these interfaces as well. Gives you access to a lot of different wizards. You can do keyword searches to find, where to configure a certain item, things like that. Gives you the dashboard views, gives you enhanced monitoring information from that dashboard. And of course, that can all be integrated within the Nebula platform as a summary within something like Security Reporter to provide you, the necessary information to define those security threats. You could do those keyword searches, simplify VPN configurations within that as well. And you can even set up my favorite menus, maybe the things that you typically use the most or want to get into the configuration of this customer as you're managing. Maybe you're having to update VPN policies a lot for this customer that you're managing. So being able to favorite that page or that configuration page for yourself might make it simpler, quicker to get to those configuration pages. And of course, this technology is made for any size offices. We have scale of product. So for larger offices, a 500H or 700H model might be sufficient with 10 gig uplinks, connecting different offices together with VPN, using, again, the larger at the main headquarters. You might have some of the smaller, like the 100Hs or the 200Hs, to connect those remote smaller branch offices back to headquarters. And again, doing that with multiple internet connections, etc. So that's our USG Flex H. Our USG Flex models with gold licensing will still give you the sandboxing functionality, and at the current specs that you've you're used to today. But what the H series does is it gives you the throughput necessary if you have your customers needing, SPI firewall 3000 or so 3 gigs up to 15 gigs of throughput, and or a UTM throughput even on the low end at 750 megabits per second, all the way up to 4 gigs of UTM throughput. So 4 gigs of UTM throughput, my gauge is always about between like 60 to 70% of that UTM number is what your actual kind of throughput numbers on multiple sessions will be able to push through the device. So just keep that in mind when you're speccing out these devices. So the 700H will give you multi-gig of throughput. So I would say 2.5 or higher is very optimal for that type of device. And then even on the lower end, if you have somebody who has a 400 or 500 meg internet connection, the 100H series is going to be really optimal. Now, if some of these models you can see has a HP to it, so the HP just means it has a PoE port, a PoE power. Now, the 500 and the 700, we don't have an HP version. We just have it with the PoE power. So they automatically come with 2 PoE ports there. So here's just another breakdown on that and maybe the kind of the size type that you might be used to today, and kind of the port configurations. But that's just some specs there. And this just gives you the differences between kind of the different models that we have. The USG Flex bundle, with the 100 series, and then if you have it with the gold licenses, it adds on the sandboxing, the IP reputation filter, and the DNS reputation. And then the gold series, it's going to have kind of the full base, but you can see some of these are in light gray instead of being dark, black. Those light gray pieces are going to be added in a future update. So the central management via Nebula, like I said, the full featured kind of look, or the entire GUI within the cloud interface, that's going to be later on. Two-factor authentication for the login or for the VPN portion, it's going to be coming more in the April timeframe. The security policies, let's see, the secure Wi-Fi, it's coming in the April timeframe as well. So just a couple more months, and this will be very standard or very close to what your USG flexes are today. But if you do need that speed today, that's your option to go with, and then be able to future-proof that as well moving forward as these updates move forward. So again, just keep that in mind, that there is a difference between the USG Flex and the USG Flex H series right now, but then basically by the October timeframe, there's going to be similar, pretty much the similar feature set there between the two different models. So that gives you, this is where the license pack will give you for when you buy the gold security. These H series only offer a non-bundled and a bundled with gold security. So the full sandboxing, reputation filtering functions, all in the device itself or in the license renewals, as well as the Nebula cloud portion if you renew it with the gold security pack. Well, that was a lot to cover. So in our from our partner program standpoint, we offer 3 different tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. If you are a new partner, we put you into silver. And to maintain that silver status, you only have to do 6K in Zyxel products in 6 months. So a 1K a month kind of commitment, I guess you could say, but you could do it all in one. We see a lot of partners who will do that in one single project, or even their project will move them automatically to gold. So if you have a big project that you're working on that could get to the 12K, let us know. Not only do we deal reg it, but we will also consider if this closes that, then it puts you automatically to gold. So we can either do some special things with that, or after that deal goes through, we will automatically from that forth on put you on the gold plan, which then gives you the maximum discounts through distribution. So we work as a channel through distribution: D&H, Ingram Micro, TD SYNNEX, Wave, Target Distribution, Pace. So if you work with them, make sure that you're getting your discounts there. And you should be able to see that reflected up front when you buy it through their portal. And if you don't see that, and if your pricing is something like at street price, then you're not getting your discounts or something's not properly loaded. So contact your sales rep, one of the 3 guys there in the beginning, of our presentation, David, Andy, Jacob, and let them know, and so we can get that fixed for you, and or maybe see why the reasoning on why you're not seeing the discounts that you should be. Some customers have been pushed to bronze because they weren't doing even 6K in that half year, so they got pushed down to bronze, which does give you a small discount. This one says none, but there's actually kind of a minimal discount that's there for you. If you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, Zyxel-US-channel, and then Zyxel America channel, or you can actually connect to me at, if you just search for Zyxel TRI, then you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you as well. Also, maybe a pitch that if you don't know this already, if you didn't get the information, we are hosting a Topgolf event 1 month from today, so March 13th in Las Vegas at the Topgolf in the MGM Grand. We're doing a Just Connect event with Zyxel, where we'll have some partner testimonies. We're going to have some, entertainment, networking time, food, drinks, and some Topgolf, while we kind of listen about kind of how Nebula has impacted some of these partners and their testimonials and why they use Zyxel and choose Zyxel for their networking solution today. So if you're available, it's at 4:30 p.m. If you happen to be in Las Vegas for other events that are there, as an MSP or as a channel partner, you can always go there to sign up with us. If you don't have that sign up information yet because the sales rep hasn't sent to you or you didn't get an email, you might want to check your spam or check your email for that information. If not, you can reach out to me. Send me an email, try@zyxel.com. So it's TRI@zyxel.com. And I would love to get that information to you so you can reserve a spot. So spots are limited there. So we want to make sure if you are there and you want to attend, to sign up and get a ticket through our Eventbrite section. Or you can go to Eventbrite and you can search for Zyxel Topgolf, and you'll be able to find us there as well. So March 13th, 4:30 to 9 o'clock. And so you're welcome to come early and stay late. As you wish there as well. So we'll be there for you to meet us, and we'll have a meet and greet time again, networking time, and those testimonials before we have some fun together. So if there's any questions, we have a couple minutes. I didn't see any questions through the presentation, so hopefully that means it was either interesting or not interesting, or it was informative enough that you have everything you need. But if you can't think of anything now and you want to send me an email, my email's right there, tri@zyxel.com. You can ask me questions later after the fact, or this will also be recorded again, recorded as well. So if you have some team members who want to watch this, it'll be posted on our webinar page. There are some future webinars that are coming up as well, but I hope you had a informative time and about our security products. And we would love to be here to help you in any way you can, in any way you need for your networking security solutions. So if no further questions, thank you for your time. Thank you for making Zyxel your networking ally. So Try Win here signing out. So have a good rest of your day.